Born in 1987, I found myself once again on the day of my wedding to Lincoln Dawson. But this time I arrived not to marry him, but to marry the drifter he always said was the most worthless man alive. I brought along my dowry and entered a different marriage, all because in my previous life, I went ahead and married Lincoln as arranged. We spent over 50 years together, and when he became gravely ill, I cared for him with devotion, bringing him tea, water, and tending to his every need. But when he drafted his will, he left everything to our neighbor, Yvonne Gray, and her son, right in front of a room full of relatives. He looked down at me and sneered. "If I had known your family would collapse so quickly, I never would have let your power pressure me into leaving Yvonne, who was pregnant with my child. You took her place for all these years. Do you know how many people cursed you, saying a corrupt official's daughter like you didn't deserve to be my wife? And still you wouldn't step aside. Shameless, malicious. This money is just repayment for what you owe her and her son. Don't even think about trying to take what rightfully belongs to them." Lincoln even refused to be buried with me. Behind my back, he purchased a plot for himself and Yvonne Gray, and had both their names engraved on the tombstone. At his funeral, Yvonne showed up with their illegitimate son, taking her place as his wife. When the guests offered her their condolences, I was so furious that I died on the spot of a brain hemorrhage. And when I opened my eyes again, I was back on the very day I was to marry Lincoln Dawson. He had been reborn too. His eyes were sharp and cold as he shoved me aside in front of everyone. While I was still wearing my red wedding gown and headpiece, he grabbed Yvonne's hand and broke off the engagement. Right then and there. "Get out of my sight. You really think a corrupt official's daughter like you is fit to marry me? Only a girl like Yvonne, with a clean background, is worthy of being the wife of a future leader like me." I didn't cry and I didn't cause a scene. Calmly I turned to the drifter, who had loved me from afar for years, the man everyone looked down on, and asked him if he was willing to marry me and become the new groom in this wedding. Lincoln thought I was using some trick to manipulate him, but later he knelt before me, his eyes red, and said he regretted everything. "Even if I die, even if I jump from here, I will never marry a woman like Rachel Quinn." Hearing that familiar voice, I opened my eyes and saw Lincoln Dawson, more than 50 years younger. Looking around, everything was awash in celebratory red. We were inside the small villa before my father's downfall. Red wedding characters were pasted on every surface. In that moment, I realized I had truly been reborn. And not just reborn, but back to the day of my wedding to Lincoln. I clenched my fists. The sharp pain in my palms confirmed that this wasn't some final hallucination. Before death, my mind was still foggy when I saw the young Lincoln storming toward me, full of anger. He didn't look at all like the shy groom from my past wedding. Instead, there was only contempt and disgust in his expression. As he walked up to me, towering over me, he shouted, "Get lost. You think someone like you deserves to marry me? I'm going to be a future official. Only someone like Yvonne, from an honorable family, can be my wife." He shoved me hard, and I nearly fell. My brother rushed to steady me and glared at Lincoln. "Have you lost your mind? Today is your wedding day with my sister. What nonsense are you saying? Are you trying to back out now?" Seeing my brother furious, Lincoln's mother, Mrs. Dawson, quickly stepped in with an awkward smile, trying to smooth things over. "Oh, Ethan, this engagement was arranged by our elders long ago. How could Lincoln possibly want to back out? He's probably just too excited today. He drank too much last night, that's all." "Rachel, Lincoln didn't mean it. Don't take it to heart." As she spoke, she took my hand affectionately. "I've always treated you like my own daughter. I've been looking forward to this day for so long." I instinctively shuddered. No, something was wrong. She was lying completely. I remembered everything from my past life. After my father's downfall, the entire Dawson family changed. Lincoln, who used to speak to me gently, and Mrs. Dawson, who once bragged about my background to everyone, suddenly treated me like a disgrace. I became a shame in their eyes. There were no more dishes I liked at the table. Not a single new dress in the house for me. to stay in their household to gain their approval. I went from a pampered young lady who had never touched cold water to a housemaid circling the stove. I poured tea for Lincoln, massaged Mr. and Mrs. Dawson's backs, and catered to them constantly. Aside from being the daughter of a disgraced official, I had done nothing to wrong anyone in that family. And yet, in the I received, was betrayal that pierced me to the bone. Before the wedding, Mrs. Dawson repeatedly said she saw me as her own daughter. But she was the very reason I was never able to get pregnant for over 50 years. Meanwhile, the son Lincoln had with another woman lived right next door to us. Every single person in the Dawson family knew the truth. Yet they all kept me in the dark. They watched me day after day bend and break my own pride just to win their favor, groveling for scraps of affection, being ordered around like a servant. I hated myself for being so blind back then. How could I have married into a family that chewed people up and spat out their bones? I yanked my hand back sharply, putting distance between myself and Mrs. Dawson. "Ma'am," I said coldly, "since Lincoln's made himself so clear, there's no need to force this marriage anymore." Caught off guard, she immediately panicked. "Rachel, don't misunderstand. Lincoln didn't mean it like that, right, Lincoln?" But of course he wasn't going to go along with her. He just let out a scornful snort through his nose, letting his eyes sweep over me with disdain. "Lam," he said. "Why are you wasting time talking to her? That old crook Quinn Fukiong never did anything good. The Quinn family is about to collapse. They really thought they could trick me, someone with a bright future, into marrying Rachel. Once their family falls, I'll get promoted to company commander. And soon I'll be a battalion commander, a high-ranking official. The Quinns are trying to drag me down with them." Disgusting. His words made all the guests change their expressions. Most of them had come just to curry favor with our family, and hearing Lincoln call my father a corrupt official made them uneasy. Mrs. Dawson's eyes darted nervously, and she subtly took 2 steps back, putting distance between us. "Oh dear, hasn't Mr. Quinn always been a reliable man? Maybe this is just a misunderstanding." But my brother Ethan saw through their hypocrisy. His face turned red with anger. "What nonsense. If the Dawsons want to break off the engagement, fine. But did you really have to slander our family like this? On the wedding day, my sister's been nothing but kind to you all. And now you're just throwing her away." Lincoln remained completely unfazed. "Ethan," he sneered, "you're so worried about your sister. But maybe you should be thinking about your own future. Instead, aren't you being forced to leave the army? Don't think you can keep parading around like some battalion commander." Every word out of his mouth dripped with malice. After all, Ethan had been the youngest battalion commander in the army, while Lincoln, after 7 or 8 years in service, had only made it to company commander, thanks to the Quinn family's connections. Back then, whenever Lincoln mentioned my brother, his face would light up with admiration. But after my father's downfall, Lincoln was the one who, drunk and reeking of alcohol, sneered in my face. "Ethan, he's nothing. If it weren't for Quinn Fuchong pulling strings, that guy wouldn't be anything close to a commander." It was only then that I realized just how deep Lincoln's jealousy toward my brother ran. Ethan hadn't expected Lincoln to know about his reassignment either. His brows furrowed. "Don't make baseless claims. I requested the transfer myself." I couldn't help but find it all bitterly ironic. My brother had only applied for reassignment to give Lincoln a chance. Without his maneuvering, how could Lincoln, stuck as a company commander for 7 years, suddenly be promoted to ranks? But Lincoln didn't know any of that. He thought Ethan was just making excuses to save face. "You're so young and already a battalion commander," he scoffed. "Who'd believe you'd step down willingly? Are you insane?" The guests nodded along, whispering among themselves. Lincoln might be right. Ethan's too young to be retiring on his own. Maybe the higher UPS are really pushing him out. Could the Quinn family actually be going down? We'd better stay out of this. One by one, people started finding excuses. Someone claimed they had urgent family matters and slipped away in a hurry. In no time, the room that had been packed just moments ago was almost empty. My brother was furious, but there was nothing he could do. He could only watch helplessly as the wedding turned into a disaster. "Damn it," he muttered. "If Mom and Dad weren't suddenly called away to Province, they never would have dared to act like this." His voice trembled with rage as he glared at Lincoln, like he wished he could burn him to ashes with his eyes. But Lincoln didn't even flinch. He walked straight up to me and said, "Rachel, so you're calling off the engagement. At least you know your place. You're not good enough for me. But I know how much you love me. I'm not heartless. I could give you a chance. Yvonne is more generous than you. I'm sure she won't mind me keeping you on the side. I'll even give you the child you want." He said it from above, like he was bestowing some great favor, as if he were doing me a kindness. I felt nothing but utter disgust. In my past life when I was still young, I did have a bit of affection for him once, but that small trace of feeling had long been worn down by the constant humiliation from the Dawson family for over 50 years. All I ever wanted was a stable life, a normal family. And yet Lincoln, actually, mistook that desire as some kind of undying devotion. I grabbed a stick nearby and swung it straight at him. "Get out now!" Lincoln let out a few miserable screams. As I beat him out the door, he turned back, glaring at me like he wanted me dead. "Rachel Quinn, you venomous woman. Me offering to support you is me giving you face. Just wait till your family collapses. Let's evil be desperate enough to marry a jinx like you." But just as he finished shouting, his body was suddenly yanked upward, like a chick being grabbed by the neck. He whipped his head around in terror. "Sam Walker, what are you doing here?" The tall, broad-shouldered man shot him a cold glance and casually flung him aside. "Why do you care where I am? Didn't you hear her tell you to get lost?" Lincoln, used to standing high above others, had never been treated like this. His eyebrows shot up in anger, but he didn't dare lay a finger on Sam. Watching him shrink back like a coward, I couldn't help but let out a soft laugh. That laugh was all Lincoln needed to redirect his rage. "You bitch, how dare you laugh? Oh, I get it, he must be your secret lover, huh? He knows your family's falling apart, doesn't he? Don't dream too big, Rachel. Without your family's status, no man would want you." He hurled insult after insult, dragging my name through the mud, completely forgetting that he was the one who betrayed our relationship, first running around with Yvonne Gray behind my back. Before I could even say a word, Sam slammed his fist into the wall behind Lincoln. "Say one more word." The wall cracked from the force and Lincoln went pale. I looked at Sam, who had stepped forward for me, and felt something stir in my chest. He'd secretly loved me for many years, never married, and had even helped my father quietly from the shadows. But I only learned the truth after I died of anger. At Lincoln's funeral, I took a deep breath and walked up to Sam. "I've broken off the engagement. Will you marry me?" Sam froze completely. He turned to me stunned. You want to marry me? But I don't even have a proper job. What if your family looks down on me? I'm afraid you'll suffer if you're with me." A warm feeling bloomed in my heart. "That's okay," I said softly. "I have plenty in my dowry. I can support you." The moment I mentioned the dowry, Lincoln snapped back to life. "Rachel, are you seriously thinking of marrying this deadbeat? Think carefully. I may not be able to make you my wife anymore, but I still have a bright future ahead. What could Sam possibly give you?" Sam clenched his fists, but then let them fall powerless. He clearly had no way to refute Lincoln's words. In the eyes of society, he was indeed no match. Orphaned at a young age, he had struggled to survive alone in the world. Still without a stable job, any respectable family with a daughter would avoid someone like him. But I didn't care about any of that. I slipped my arm into Sam's and said, "Come on. Let's go inside and finish our wedding." Sam, stiff with nerves, stumbled as he followed me into the house. Behind us, Lincoln stood alone, stomping in fury. "Fine, this is just your way of getting my attention, right? Trying to provoke me when I rise to power. Don't come crawling back." I rolled my eyes and muttered, "Idiot. Rise to power. Without me in his life, he could keep dreaming. Especially now that I had been reborn. How could I just stand by and let everything from the past repeat itself? My father had been framed, and I knew it for a fact. In my previous life, right before my death, Sam gave me all the evidence. Back inside, my brother Ethan was still fuming. Rachel, that bastard Lincoln treated you like that. There's no way I'm letting him have that promotion. I nodded firmly, then pulled the man standing timidly beside me forward. All right, Ethan, let me introduce someone to you. This is the new groom for today's wedding, I said. My brother already knew Sam Walker. I thought he might say something to oppose the idea, but to my surprise, he just gave Sam a once-over. Sam, flustered, immediately nodded hard. Ethan smiled and said, "This brother-in-law is way better than that ungrateful bastard Lincoln Dawson. At least this guy knows how to appreciate kindness. You gave him a few malt candies, and he protected you on your way to school for over 10 years. Just the other day, Mom and Dad were still saying that if it weren't for your engagement with Lincoln, they would have brought Sam into the family already." I froze for a second when I heard that, and looked at Sam, who was blushing like a ripe tomato. He didn't try to brag. He just blinked at me and said softly, "It's not too late to bring me in now." There wasn't a trace of reluctance in his voice, not even the slightest resentment or embarrassment. My heart, which had been anxious ever since my rebirth, suddenly felt calm. Maybe marrying a man like this wasn't a bad choice at all, but from an outsider's point of view, it just made it seem even more certain that the Quinn family was going downhill. "Did you hear?" someone whispered. "Rachel Quinn actually married that loser Sam Walker." Oh, no way, the Quinns must really be finished. Why else would they give their precious daughter to someone like Sam? Looks like Lincoln was right all along, but apparently he's planning to get married too. Within the next couple of days, he's marrying Miss Gray, the teacher's daughter. Well, that's a squeaky clean family background for sure. If Lincoln really rises and the Quinns collapse, I wonder if Rachel will regret letting go of such a golden bachelor. Gossip like that was everywhere, even at the TV station where I worked. People came poking around for details. Some just wanted to watch the drama unfold. Others genuinely cared. I made a mental note of who was who, and simply told them, "Just wait and see." And then right on cue, Lincoln showed up again, like a shadow that refused to disappear. "Oh, we're waiting all right to see how badly you fall. I can't believe you really married someone like Sam Walker. Rachel, you've truly hit rock bottom. I was actually worried you'd have nowhere to go after your family collapsed." He said it like he was some kind of loyal, soft-hearted man. Even Yvonne Gray, blushing in his arms, looked at him with admiration. "Lincoln, you're so kind. I'm so lucky to be marrying a man like you." Her flattery made Lincoln beam with pride. "Don't sell yourself short, Yvonne. Compared to my ex-fiancé, you're 100 times better." I couldn't help it. I burst out laughing and pointed at her. 100 times better than me? Really, in what way? Lincoln thought I was jealous, and a smug glint flashed in his eyes. "See, you still care, Rachel. Aside from your family background, you're no match for Yvonne at all." A few co-workers in the crowd laughed out loud. "Isn't Yvonne just a temp worker? How could she possibly compare to Rachel exactly? Rachel got into a real university. I'm pretty sure Yvonne only finished a vocational program." Yvonne's smile faltered, and her face tightened as she leaned closer to Lincoln. "Lincoln, is it true? Am I really no match for Rachel?" But Lincoln didn't care about any of that. He glared at the colleagues who had spoken and barked. "Ignore them, they're just jealous that you're about to become the wife of a company commander, and soon of a battalion commander's wife. So what if Rachel has a good job and a higher degree? She only got anywhere because she had the Quinn family backing her. Without them, she's nothing." His words made Yvonne light up with joy. I just looked at him coldly. The truth was, the one who cared the most about my family background was Lincoln himself. Sure, my family supported me and my brother, but we had worked hard too. Lincoln, with his lack of ability, had convinced himself that all of our success came from family privilege. He even believed his own excuse pathetic, just as the two of them were about to start fawning over each other again. In front of me, I cut in slowly. "Wow, she really is lucky. Does she know you offered to keep me on the side before?" Yvonne's smile froze. Lincoln hadn't expected me to bring that up so bluntly. His expression twisted in fury, and he slapped a bright Red wedding invitation down on my desk. Don't flatter yourself, Rachel. I only said that to humiliate you. Our wedding banquet is in a few days, and I was being generous enough to invite you. What are you trying to pull by bringing this up now? Yvonne let out a breath of relief and looked at me with smug contempt. Rachel Quinn, you really don't know your place. I know you're not over it, Rachel. You're upset that Lincoln chose me instead of you. But you don't need to stir things up between us. Like this, Yvonne said softly. What if someone misunderstands and thinks you still have feelings for him? Why don't you bring your family to our wedding? That might help clear things up. I looked at her deeply. I knew without a doubt that Lincoln had fed her that line. He couldn't wait to watch my family's downfall unfold. Like a drama for his own entertainment. The corners of my lips curled slightly. I nodded, sure, I'll bring my whole family to the wedding. Even Lincoln, who thought nothing of me, now looked at me like I'd gone insane. I had actually agreed to attend his wedding with Yvonne. But of course he didn't stop me. That was exactly what he wanted. To see me broken and humiliated. Crying in regret in front of him. When I got home and told Ethan and Sam about it, they instantly understood what Lincoln was aiming for. Just a clown trying to show off. None of us took it seriously. 2 days later, my brother drove us to the Dawsons. In our family's compact car, the Dawsons had clearly put in effort. There were about as many red wedding symbols decorating their home as there had been at mine during the last ceremony. But unlike our spacious house, the Dawson place was smaller, and all those decorations just made everything look cluttered and messy. Still, Mrs. Dawson was beaming, warmly welcoming the arriving guests. When she saw Ethan and me, she barely lifted her eyelids and treated us like we were invisible. That condescending attitude made it clear she believed every word her son had said. She was convinced our family had no way back, which explained the complete 180 in her behavior. Neither Ethan nor I were bothered. We calmly found ourselves a seat. We had barely sat down when Lincoln swaggered in, with Yvonne on his arm. Their outfits looked even more expensive than last time, clearly rented at a high price. He was grinning like a man who had just won the world. Well, I can't believe you actually showed up. Riding in here with your fancy little car, acting all proud. If I were you, I'd be hiding at home in shame. Yvonne, cradling her slightly rounded belly, took the softer role. Oh, Lincoln, don't say that. Guests are guests. Even if Mr. Quinn was a corrupt official, and the Quinn family is about to be investigated, and lose everything, we were still friends once. Friends, Lincoln scoffed. Let's not stretch it. I'm about to be promoted to company commander. Why would I need friends with a family like that? Their morals are rotten and their conduct a disgrace. He spoke with righteous indignation. Ethan and I didn't even bother responding. We just kept eating. All the money our family had quietly funneled into theirs. Over the years gone, we might as well get a good meal out of it. But to Lincoln, even that was something he could use to step on us. Eat up, go ahead. I doubt you'll get a meal this nice ever again. Your old man's about to get arrested. His voice was loud, shameless, and cruel. Just then a figure in a green military uniform appeared at the door. Lincoln perked up instantly, and so did Mrs. Dawson and Yvonne. Seeing someone from the army, they lit up like it was Christmas morning. That must be the officer, here to deliver Lincoln's promotion. Mrs. Dawson beamed. Lincoln, you're amazing. I'll finally get to be a commander's wife. Our baby will have a powerful father too. Yvonne added proudly. Lincoln cleared his throat, pretending to be modest. But he couldn't wipe the smug grin off his face. Under the guests' eager eyes, he stepped forward and approached the young soldier. Holding out his hand, he asked, "Comrade, I'm Lincoln Dawson. Are you here with my promotion papers?" The young soldier looked confused. Lincoln Dawson. I'm sorry, I'm looking for Captain Ethan Quinn. His superior officer wants him to return to base as soon as he's done here. Lincoln's eyes widened in disbelief. That can't be. Quinn Fu Chang was arrested and Ethan. Wasn't he supposed to be discharged? The soldier looked at him like he was crazy. Who told you Mr. Quinn was arrested? He's doing just fine. He's handling official matters in H province. And even the top brass speak highly of him. Are you out of your mind? The moment he heard the news, Lincoln looked like he'd been struck by lightning. Praise, that's impossible. Wasn't Quinn Fuching a major corrupt official? He should have been arrested and stripped of everything. Why is it different this time? What about my appointment as company commander? His hysteria made even the young soldier frown in discomfort, like he was afraid Lincoln might lash out. Then, spotting my brother seated calmly among the guests, the young man quickly rushed over. Captain Quinn, how are you still sitting here eating? He leaned in and spoke urgently. The senior commander heard you applied for reassignment. Just to give someone else a chance. He was so upset he couldn't sleep for 3 days. If you don't head back soon, he's going to lose his mind. Ethan slowly wiped his mouth, gave Lincoln a faint, amused smile and said, "Got it. I'll go right away. I was mistaken before. Almost let some worthless trash fool me. But don't worry. Going forward, I won't be stepping aside for anyone who doesn't deserve it." As soon as the words left his mouth, all color drained from Lincoln's face. If he still couldn't figure out that his promotion in the previous life came entirely from my brother's help, then he really was a fool. The guests, many of whom had also attended what was supposed to be my wedding, finally snapped out of it too. They had come today, thinking they were latching on to the rising star of Lincoln Dawson. But now they realized it had all been a lie. The Quinn family hadn't fallen. Ethan was still very much a respected, up-and-coming commander. Regrets swept through the crowd. Some clutched their thighs in frustration, rushing over to us to apologize. "Captain Quinn, Miss Quinn, we're so sorry. This was all a huge misunderstanding." That's right, it was all Lincoln's lies. We were fooled too. Please consider the history between our families. Let's not hold grudges. I let out a light laugh. You must be joking, gentlemen. How could it be a misunderstanding? You just happened to show up at the Dawson's wedding banquet today because your own homes were quiet. What does that have to do with our family? Honestly, we were never that close. Ethan stood beside me and nodded in agreement. He had seen right through them. The moment they heard the Quinn family was in trouble, they bolted faster than anyone. They weren't apologizing now out of guilt, but out of fear of consequences. People like that weren't worth keeping around. Better to cut ties cleanly. After all, their only real interest had ever been in clinging to the Quinn name. Seeing how firm we were, those people's faces darkened with embarrassment. They didn't dare blame us. So, they poured all their resentment onto Lincoln instead. Shameless brat, one man spat. Did you make up all those lies just to have a valid excuse for breaking off the engagement? Didn't you hear what that woman said earlier? She's already pregnant. A pregnancy test takes at least a month. 1 month ago, your engagement with Miss Quinn hadn't even been canceled yet. So you planned all of this. Schemed to dump her and trap someone else. Absolutely despicable. And, just like that, more and more people began walking out of the Dawson home. Before long, the only ones left were me, my brother Mr. and Mrs. Dawson, Lincoln, and Yvonne. No one in the Dawson family had expected things to turn out like this. Not only had the Quinn family not collapsed, but the position my brother had once planned to give Lincoln was now gone too. Mrs. Dawson slapped her thigh in frustration. This is karma. Oh, Lincoln, how foolish can you be? If Rachel had married into our family, we would have had a real future. Lincoln still hadn't recovered from the shock. Hearing his mother's words made the regret in his heart twist even deeper. He glanced at Ethan and me, both of us sitting there calmly, watching the show unfold, and just couldn't get the words of apology out of his mouth. Instead, he clenched his jaw and tried to salvage his pride. Who says I have to rely on the Quinn family to succeed? Don't you believe your son can make it on his own, even without their backing? I'll still become a company commander. So what if Rachel married Sam Walker? What does he have that I don't? He turned to Yvonne. Right, Yvonne? She looked uneasy. It took several seconds, and several repeats of her name before she snapped out of it and gave him a half-hearted nod. Yeah, right, Ethan. And I could clearly see the lack of sincerity in her response, but Lincoln chose to believe it anyway. forcing himself to carry on with a wedding ceremony that had no guests left to witness it. After watching the whole ridiculous show, and having more than enough to eat and drink, my brother and I left early and headed home. Our parents had just returned from H. Province and were waiting for us. But when we walked in and saw Sam Walker, sitting obediently in front of my parents, like a tamed little bird, I suddenly realized I forgot to tell him that Mom and Dad were coming back today. Still, someone explained this to me. Why were my parents smiling so brightly, like they were looking at their own son? Confused, I turned to my brother Ethan, but he looked just as puzzled as I was. It wasn't until later that I found out Sam had agreed to start studying business and prepare to take over my grandfather's company. Lincoln had always assumed the money in our family came from my father being a corrupt official, and none of us had ever bothered to tell him otherwise. The truth, my mother was the only daughter of the wealthiest family in the province. Her dowry alone could have supported our family for a lifetime, and now most of it had been passed down to me. What I hadn't expected was just how highly my parents thought of Sam. They even entrusted him with my grandfather's legacy. And considering the level my parents had operated at for years, they were certainly not people who misjudged character. Back when I was about to marry Lincoln, they were already hesitant. They said the Dawsons were too calculating, and that I would suffer. Turns out they were absolutely right. So now, did this mean they genuinely approved of the cheap husband I picked up halfway through life? I had to admit it seemed so, and my parents' instincts were spot on. Sam had hardly been exposed to any business before, but once he took over Grandpa's company, it only took a few years for him to multiply the profits several times over. A true business prodigy. The only reason he hadn't shown earlier was because he'd never had the resources, and that, ironically, was exactly what our Quinn family had in abundance. 10 years passed in a flash. With the support of my father and brother, Sam quickly became the youngest self-made tycoon in the entire province. People who once looked down on him now had to look up to him, and no one ever dared to question my or my family's judgment again. When Sam was featured on TV for a major interview, it was only a matter of time before Lincoln came crawling back. When I saw him, I was genuinely startled. Lincoln looked like a ghost of his former self, aged far beyond his years. He didn't look much younger than he had when he died in our past life, and back then he was already over 70. Just how much had he been through to end up in such a state? While I was lost in thought, a warm coat with a faint scent of soap was suddenly draped over my shoulders. I turned around. Sam stood there with a grim expression, his eyes locked warily on Lincoln. But Lincoln didn't even spare Sam a glance. His bloodshot eyes fixed right on me. And then thud, he dropped to his knees. Tears streamed down his face. Rachel, I know I was wrong. I really was. I've made terrible mistakes. From Lincoln's broken and scattered words, I slowly pieced together the story of his years since our last encounter. After that wedding banquet with Yvonne, he was filled with spite. He thought he could still build the same life he'd had in our past life, all on his own. But it only took one misstep, and a single leader who at once respected my father, to have him expelled from the army. Once he left the military, he had no idea what to do. He ended up doing hard labor at the docks, just to feed his family. But the little money he made wasn't even enough to buy barley milk for the baby, let alone the pricier formula. He and Yvonne fought constantly over money. It was under the crushing weight of daily survival that Lincoln finally started to remember how good I had been to him. I had always put him first, always used my own resources to support his rise. Yvonne, she did nothing but demand money from him. Then just recently he discovered a devastating the son he had lovingly raised like a precious heir wasn't even his. After 10 months of pregnancy and years of fatherhood, it turned out that child wasn't his blood. In both lives, he had been completely manipulated by Yvonne. He had even gone so far as to throw away his own conscience, only to end up raising someone else's child. Lincoln couldn't take it. He looked at me with eyes full of desperation. Rachel, give me another chance. I know it now. You've been reborn, haven't you? You loved me so much. You can help me rise again. Right before I could respond, Sam shoved him straight to the ground. You dare try to steal my wife in front of me? What do you take me for? Over the years, all that physical labor had made Lincoln stronger. But no matter how much he struggled, he couldn't shake off Sam in the slightest. Furious and embarrassed, he shouted, "You're just using him to get back at me. He's just your tool. Don't think you actually care about him." I couldn't stop myself from rolling my eyes. You're the one who's completely delusional. Who said he was just a tool? Sam Walker is my husband, the father of my child and my family. Lincoln froze. You have a child? No kidding, I said coolly. Our kid is 9 years old. Did you seriously think I stayed devoted to you all this time, that I'd waste my whole life waiting for you? Don't be ridiculous. Sam is the wealthiest man in the entire province now. I'd have to be insane to pick you over him. Lincoln refused to accept it. If I hadn't called off the wedding, wouldn't I be the one who became the richest man? With your family backing me, everything would have been easier. If the Quinns had supported me, I'd be way more successful than Sam. And that was when I realized some people's arrogance really is burned into their bones. Even after falling so far, even after making a complete mess of his life, Lincoln still believed he was the best. Where did he even get that level of self-delusion? I rolled my eyes again and turned to leave. I'm not exactly sure what Sam did after that, but Lincoln never showed up again. At least not until the day he finally snapped. During a bitter argument, he pulled a knife on Yvonne and that illegitimate child and made the news. That's how I learned about the fate of my former fiancé. He stabbed them both, got sentenced to several years. When he was finally released, even backbreaking jobs, like hauling bricks at the dock, weren't available to him anymore. But all of that, every last consequence, was of his own making. It had nothing to do with me. I had long since started a brand new life.